Happy New Book Day. Yep, sorry about the hair. Hair doesn't do anything. We've had snow. Snow's good. This book is Sayings and Doings, Pai Chang, Chan Master of Great Wisdom, they say. Translated by Thomas Cleary. Is that Thomas? And has a very long introduction. So that means there'll be part 1 and part 2. And I can't pronounce these names very well. Pai Chang Huai He, 1720 through 1884 AD, is one of the most celebrated and ancient teachers of Zen Buddhism, especially honored as the founder of the Chan meditation commune in the Tang Dynasty, China. But Chang also transmitted the inner message of Chan through numerous successors, like Hung Bo and Lin Chi, Naquan probably, who knows. But Chang, Naquan is also his student. No, Naquan was Masao's student. Yeah, anyway. His sayings and doings have subsequently been scattered throughout the teaching lore of Chan and its offspring schools throughout East Asia. According to the Sung Dynasty biographies of eminent monks, Pai Chang Huai Hai was a man from Min, that is Fu Chao or Fu Qin. And when young, he departed from the Rotten House and long sojourned in the Sudden School. Long sojourn, like studied for a long time, exploring the Sudden School of Zen Enlightenment. That is, he left his home and society and became a monk when he was still a youth and studied Chan Buddhism for a long time. His endowment was by nature and did not come from being urged on, it is said in quotes. When the great master Matsao, or ancestor Ma, was beginning to teach in the Nanking in Shaanxi, Huaihe went there according to the biography. He went empty and returned fulfilled, and ultimately became a master of the school. So he's Matsuo's student. I love this lineage. The story of Chang's awakening and some of his dialogues with Matsao are told in the record of Chang's sayings. According to the Annals of the Forest by the distinguished Sung Dynasty Chan master Illustratus Chao Fin, after the death of ancestor Ma, Chang ended his pilgrimage and came back to sit at the great teacher's tomb. There, seekers of the way eventually came to learn from Chang. The biographies of eminent monks continues. Later, generous believers invited him to live in the Xinghu region of Shaanxi, where there was a mountain, extremely steep and about 10,000 feet high, named Ta Sung, but Chang, as an epithet, called Chang. Okay. Buddhist monks, the eminent ones, didn't name themselves after their names. They were named after the mountain where they lived. So that's what epithet means. Once Huaihe was dwelling there, Chan students came without regard for distance. The halls and rooms were too small to hold them all. Eventually, Chang Huaihe, or Hai, established a new monastic code for the community, which subsequently became a guide for other Chan schools, according to the biographies of ancient monks. I happen to have bought that book. I find it disappointing because it's ceremonies and prayers and rituals and busy work. I don't understand the nature of why would you do that, but I think it rather turns out that in the day, monastery was state and local funded, and they actually just couldn't sit around going, who's going to pay for that? So they provided a social service, counseling, work, prayers, services, religious rites, things of this nature. Chang encompassed the great and lesser vehicles, synthesizing them to set up standards, striving to bring them back to good. Thus, as an innovator, he did not follow the regulations of the Indian monastic code, but set up a special Chan abode. Since the transmission of the teachings, beginning from the Bodhidharma, reached the sixth patriarch, those who attained the eye of the way were called Great Elder. The same as how those in India who were exalted in the way, are called Acharya. However, they mostly dwelt in monasteries of the schools of precepts, their only distinction being that they dwelt in separate buildings. But Chang had them all enter a monk's hall, without regard of high or low. But Chang organized a service elite instead of a cloistered and privileged elite, with the process of teaching being carried out through the fabric of the community. The austere life of work and study among the mountain monks of the Chan schools was for centuries an underlying source of civilization and human culture in China, providing not only the means of direct knowledge and inspiration, but also working models for the accomplishment of individual and common weal in a differentiated yet egalitarian society. The biographies of eminent monks continues its description of the Chan monks' hall. In the hall were set up long continuous benches and shelves for utensils. When lying down, they would always do so on their sides, pillowed on the edge of the bench. This is called sleeping with a sword on. Only because their sitting meditation was long, they just lay down for a little while, and that's all. They inquired in the mornings and assembled at night. They ate and drank in moderation, showing frugality. They practiced the rule of communal work, showing that high and low must equally exert their strength. Oh, dude, so it's like, I've been sitting here for a while, just like this. Time for a nap. Why? Well, waste so much time getting up from my room into the cold air and to have to walk down the hall with my feet are cold and everything. And then I gotta sit down. And then I gotta straighten out, and it just takes all of my time. So it's just more efficient to sleep where you sit. The wisdom master. Wow. Do like the study of frugality. Chan teachings humanized Chinese Buddhism, emphasizing practical application beyond theory, without maintaining or emphasizing an idealized image of superhuman Buddhahood. This was reflected in humanitarian works of charity, education, and service in the world, as well as in the special function of awakening the basic inner illumination of the human mind, that is the source knowledge of Chan. Even Pai Chang's very organization manifestly emphasized the necessity of suiting the teachings to the current needs, and not allowing it to become dead words. The great elder of the community, the guide, dwelt on a 10-foot square room, the same as Vimalkirti's single room. Alluding to a famous Buddhist scripture in which the enlightened layman Vimalkirti, let's try it again, Kirti emphasizes non-duality of delusion and enlightenment by being a Buddha. It demonstrates the non-duality of delusion and enlightenment by being a Buddha in the world, yet not strained by the things of the world. Not stained by the things of the world. He was Jesus Christ, or a good Christian. So, that's why Pai Chang did not set up a Buddha shrine, only a teaching hall, to show that the teaching goes beyond words and images. Thus, Pai Chang's work was a major evolutionary step in the development of Chan activity in China, and as his teaching style is also known for marking the transition of the Chan teaching from principle to fact. Biographies of eminent monks continues. Ooh, I think I just got a new subscriber and I think that my reading is boring and everything because it's dry and I just read and everybody else has pictures and shit. I'm sorry. This is how you read. It's more efficient. I'm in a good mood even though I don't even feel like doing this. I'd rather just get right to the teachings because I know that nobody's watched this far. Nobody will watch this far. This is like a private moment. Alright, back to the reading. Various regulations of his were antithetical to the teachings of the Indian monastic codes. The Chan schools all over the land followed his examples like grass bending in the wind. The independent practice of the Chan school began from Pai Chang Pai Chang was a successor in the 9th generation of a Buddhist teaching line that appeared in China around the turn of the 6th century A.D. with the Indian Buddhist yogi Bodhidharma, who it is said to have been directed by the 27th Buddhist patriarch Prajantara to go to China after teaching in India for 50 years. We'll probably do Bodhidharma next. When Bodhidharma came to China in the late 5th century, Buddhist studies were flourishing in China, but according to tradition, the only scripture he used was the Mahayana Langa Avatara, the entry of the great vehicle into Sri Lanka, or Ceylon, a compendium of teachings of the Yogacara, or Yoga Practice School, which is known as the Consciousness-Only School, teaching that what we conceive of as reality is actually just mental construction projected on faculties, consciousness, and data of sense, which are only real relative to each other, and thus have no fixed nature of their own. Various yogic practices are used, therefore, to break down the delusion of the ultimate reality of any description and free the mind from attachment to habitual patterns of thought. Bodhidharma, it is said to have spent some 50 years traveling and teaching in various parts of China, and various collections of sayings are attributed to him. The most widely accepted of these, that which is of the earliest record, is a well-known outline of two kinds of entry into the way, recorded in the Tang Dynasty biographies of eminent monks, as follows.
This is Bodhidharma speaking. I am the great Bodhidharma. There are many roads of entry to the way, but they are essentially only two kinds, called principle and action. Realizing the source of the way by the teachings, one deeply believes that all living beings have the same unique real nature. But since it is veiled by outside elements, one brings about the abandonment of falsehood and return to reality, freezing and abiding in wall gazing, with no self or other, ordinary or holy being, equal, the same. Firmly abiding without any moving, not following other persuasions, tactically merging with the way, silently, not doing, is called entry by principle. Did you understand? Well, did you? In the four practices of entry by action, myriad practices are likewise included.
Oh. It's a pretty long quote. I don't think I can continue to read at that. Oh, well, maybe you'll just have to find your own voice, Bodhidharma. But anyway, this first principle, wait till we get to the book, you'll find it remarkable. The first is the practice of compensation for opposition. In cultivating the way, when beset by suffering, one should think of times past when one abandoned the root and pursued the branches, giving rise to much love and hate. Though now one may have committed no transgression, he has himself done so in the past, so he accepts it contentedly, without any resentment or complaint at all. A scripture speaks of encountering suffering without anxiety. This is because of perfect knowledge. When this mind is produced, it has no discord with the way, because by thoroughly comprehending opposition, one advances on the path. The second is the practice of according with conditions. See, sentient beings have no self. Pain and pleasure are according to conditions. Even if one obtains such things as prosperity and fame, they are what was made by past causes, and are only now realized. When the conditions are exhausted, they return to nothing. So what is there to rejoice about? Gain or loss according to conditions? There is no increase or decrease in the mind. When adverse and favorable winds are still, one tacitly accords with truth. The third is called the practice of having no object of seeking. Worldly people wander forever, attached by greed here and there. It is called seeking. Heroes of the way are aware that the true principle is contrary to the mundane. With their minds at ease, without striving, their forms go along with the turns of fate. The world is all suffering. Who can find ease? As scripture says, that to have any seeking is all suffering, and absence of seeking is bliss. Fourth is called the practice of conforming with truth. This is the truth of the purity of nature. Bodhidharma's teachings transcended the conventions of the day, and he was poisoned on several occasions by rival preachers. According to the biographies of eminent monks, Bodhidharma taught meditation wherever he stayed. country was full of lecturing profession, and when they heard his method of still meditation, many began to talk against him. And we're going to stop for part 1. Please enjoy your new book,